Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are tackling a huge problem that's kind of holding back the entire AI revolution. This integration nightmare. We have all these incredible AI tools, right? But getting them to actually talk to each other and to our own data, that's a massive challenge. So we're going to explore how combining two super powerful tools, N8N and Python, can solve this and really unlock what AI automation is supposed to be. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to really get into the weeds of this integration nightmare. Then we'll introduce our two heroes, N8N, the orchestrator, and Python, the brain. We'll watch them in action with a real-world example, and then we'll talk about how this duo can give you a serious competitive edge. Okay, so let's dive into the problem. We are living through an explosion of AI. Seriously, there's a model for everything now, generating text, analyzing images, you name it. But here's the big catch. They all live in their own little bubbles, completely disconnected from the real-time, messy, proprietary data that businesses actually run on. And that creates this giant, frustrating gap. And wow, this quote from a Skywork AI case study, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? For everyday users, it's this endless, frustrating copy and paste tango. But for developers, it's the dreaded N times M problem. So imagine you have N AI tools and M data sources. Every single time you add a new tool, you have to build a custom connection to every single one of your data sources. It is a nightmare that just doesn't scale. And you know, this whole integration mess gets even trickier when you look at the two main ways we're using AI. As Anthropic explains it, you've got structured AI workflows on one hand. They're like following a recipe step by step. But then you have these dynamic AI agents, which are more like a chef who can improvise and decide which tools to grab on the fly. Building a system that can handle both of these reliably, that is a huge challenge. So developers are basically stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got these easy-to-use, no-code tools that are fantastic for simple A to B tasks. But the second you throw complex AI logic at them, they just fall apart. On the other side, you've got pure Python code. It's got all the power in the world, but trying to build and maintain that integration layer connecting everything, it's slow, it's brittle, and it's a total pain. Okay, so this is where our solution starts coming into focus. Let's talk about the first piece of this puzzle, a tool that was practically built to be the ultimate orchestrator for these crazy complex systems. Let's talk about N8N. Now, check this out. This is where it gets really, really interesting. This data is from a market evaluation of different AI agent tools. Just look at where N8N sits. It has an absolutely top-tier integratability score. That's its superpower, connecting to everything. But it also has a really strong codability score. That means developers can still get their hands dirty and write custom code when they need to. It's sitting in this perfect sweet spot. And here's how it does it. Yeah, it's got a great drag-and-drop editor that makes it easy to see what's going on, but the real magic? It has over 400 pre-built integrations, which basically just solves that N times M problem for you. You can host it yourself for total data control, and this is the kicker. It has code nodes. You can literally drop custom logic right where you need it, all wrapped up in serious enterprise-grade error handling. But here's the thing. Even the best orchestra conductor needs a virtuoso soloist for the really complex parts. And that's exactly where Python comes in. It acts as the high-powered, custom logic brain for our AI workflows. This is the million-dollar question for any real project, right? What happens when you hit a wall? What do you do when you need to process a huge 100-page PDF, or run a custom machine learning model, or do some super complex data validation that a simple tool just can't handle? The answer is beautiful, seamless integration. N8N gives you two fantastic ways to do this. For smaller things, you can run a Python script directly inside your workflow. But for the really heavy-duty stuff, your N8N workflow can just make a simple API call to a dedicated, high-performance Python service. You get the best of both worlds, simplicity when you want it and raw power when you need it. So the big takeaway here, and this is super important, is that this isn't about N8N versus Python. It is a strategic partnership. You use N8N for what it's amazing at, building the connections, managing the flow, orchestrating all the different services. And you bring in dedicated Python for the heavy lifting, the specialized algorithms, and the raw computational muscle. That separation of concerns is the secret to building AI systems that actually scale. Okay, enough theory. Let's see what this actually looks like. We're going to walk through a retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, workflow. That's just a fancy way of saying we're going to make an AI answer questions based on our own private documents, and it is the perfect showcase for this N8N and Python combo. So here's the play-by-play. A user pops a question into a chat window. The N8N AI agent gets it and thinks, okay, to answer this, I need to look something up. It then uses its tools to search a knowledge base, let's say it's Google Drive, finds the right document, pulls out just the relevant piece of text, and then hands that specific context to a large language model to write a factual, grounded summary. Every single step is perfectly orchestrated by N8N. Now, that whole RAG process might sound really complex, but the impact of building it this way is just, well, it's massive. And it comes down to one thing: speed. Studies are showing that using a low-code platform like N8N for that orchestration layer can reduce development time by up to 90%. Just let that number sink in. That isn't a small tweak. That's a total game changer. And that incredible speed, it shows up right on the bottom line. You can see it in this chart. Enterprise surveys are finding an average return of about $3.70 for every dollar they spend on generative AI. But then, look at the high performers. The teams that are really getting this right, they're seeing over $10 in return. That huge gap between average and amazing, that's where smart, efficient architecture lives. So let's bring this all home. What does mastering this combination of visual orchestration and custom code actually mean for you? Why does this give you a real, tangible competitive edge? You don't have to take my word for it. This quote from a developer says it all. It is about smart architecture. Let N8N handle the integration layer, that messy web of APIs and data routing, and then call out to Python services for the heavy computation. This approach, letting each tool do what it does best, doesn't just make things faster to build, it actually makes the whole system more scalable and way easier to maintain down the road. So in the end, this approach is about so much more than just doing the same old things a little bit faster. It's about fundamentally changing what's even possible. When you free up your developers from all that tedious integration work, you're not just saving time, you're unlocking innovation. Which leaves us with one final, and I think really important question. Once all the repetitive tasks are automated, what will you build when you're finally free to innovate?